Hello, welcome to the Voice of Bold Business Radio. I am excited to be here with you today. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, I am Jess Dewell, founder and CEO of Red Direction, where we provide consulting services and problem-solving skills, decision-making skills. And one of the things that we do to build community and make sure that this information gets to you when you need it, how you need it, and you can develop yourself right here, right now, is through the Voice of Bold Business Radio. And we have an amazing woman with us today. And I say amazing because I learned from her just by being in her presence. Ideas pop into my head. And it's because we've spent enough time together that we probably know a little bit about how each other thinks. I still have so much to learn, and she keeps learning and I keep learning. And we're talking about influence today. And why influence is important? Well, you're going to find out. Mostly because we have our own influence. Sometimes we want to partner with other people who have a different kind of influence, and how we can work that relationship. What do we need to think about? What does it mean for our business and for ourselves in the path we choose to play? What's our intention? You are listening to Influence, Influencers, and Us. Ivana Taylor, our amazing special guest today, is the publisher of DIYmarketers.com, and she's a resource for entrepreneurs who want to do less marketing and make more money. She also hosts the popular Bizapalooza tweet chat, and in 2010, she ranked number 21 out of 30,000 influential people on the internet. She is the book editor for Small Business Trends, a contributing author to Amex Open Forum, and she has appeared on MSNBC. You will get to meet her right after this.
Welcome to the Voice of Bold Business, the show that provides everything smart leaders need to evaluate situations, build relationships, and create solutions. Jessica Dewell candidly talks about the skills necessary to build tenacity and do more with less. And now, here's Jessica.
Hey, okay, we are back. You heard the intro, and now let's meet Ivana. Hi, Ivana, how's it going today?
Hey, Jess, it is so good to see you, and I'm so happy to be with you today.
Thank you. I am glad as well. One of the things that I know that I really love about you is that you have been building this community for many years, your Bizapalooza chat community, the DIY marketers community, and you yourself have acquired this concept of being an influencer, this status, if you will. Now, we hear people talk about this all the time. Be a micro-influencer in your community, or this is what you need to be an influencer today. What does being an influencer actually mean?
Well, that's a great question, and I think it's the question of the decade because and actually we talked a little bit about this at our previous Bizapalooza chat where we had Adele DeMayer on, who is also an influencer, and we talked about thought leadership. And one of the things I got from the conversation that I saw, and you guys can see that conversation at #Bizapalooza chat on Twitter, and what you're going to see when you go there is, for as many people as you ask, that's how many definitions you're going to get of what it means to be an influencer. So I'm going to share a little bit about my own experience with influence, which is, I thought, like probably many of you think, that being an influencer means you're a celebrity, like the Kardashians, or like some of these folks that are on Instagram, or, or even the Shark Tank people, right?
Yeah.
These are like, or Oprah. Right? We've got the Oprah effect. So these are all influencers, celebrities, and now we've got the Olympics going on. So those folks are influencers, right? So we're familiar with that kind of influence, right? We're familiar with the influence that is a movie star or a celebrity. But what we forget is how we are influenced by everyday people in our lives. So for example, I believe that every small business owner needs to be an expert and an influencer in their space. Let me give you a practical example. And the reason I say this is because you will be able to charge more money, make more money, and be a bigger contribution to your customers. So let's talk about a tale of two landscapers, right? Landscaper number one, right? Landscaper number one, he comes, they'll mow your lawn, they'll put down mulch, they'll plant bushes, whatever. Right? And that's what they do, and they charge for that. But let's say that landscaper number two is, what would you call him, like a horticulturist?
Okay.
right? They've got a degree in horticulture. And let's say that they also practice sustainable landscaping. So let's say for folks in California, there's like a certain kind of landscape that you should have that is more sustainable, more natural, rather than planting grass and having to water it 15 times a day, right? So now my question to you is, let's say you don't want to mow as much grass and you want to have an easy landscape to manage. Who are you going to call? Landscaper number one, who like mows grass and plants bushes? Or are you going to call the sustainable landscaping company? You tell me.
The one that you want, which in this example is the second.
Is the second, right? Because here's another example. These are practical examples because this is the message I want to leave with everyone today. Having an area of expertise and influence will make you more money.
Yes.
So, right? Here's another example. I don't know if you and I talked about this, but people, I am a marketing person. I do a lot of writing. Numbers, not a talent, not a skill, not a strength. I struggle with long division. When it comes time to doing my books and keeping my books, it's a real challenge. Now, I use QuickBooks Online, and QuickBooks that's on your desktop is different from QuickBooks Online. I have a CPA, but a CPA, people, is not a bookkeeper. He does my taxes, but he is not a bookkeeper.
That's right.
So I finally, don't ask me why it took so long, was like, that's it. I'm finding me a bookkeeper. And I found one in Colorado of all places. And her name is Danielle. And I interviewed her and I kind of cried on the phone. And I said, Danielle, I really, really struggle with this. And my QuickBooks is a complete mess. I have $250,000 in a PayPal account, which is like probably every expense I've ever made on PayPal for the last 20 years. And that's not right. And I need help and everything's a mess. And do you know what she said?
What'd she say?
Oh my God, there is nothing I love more than working with people who hate books. And I love cleaning up their QuickBooks. This is what I do. I clean QuickBooks. And I said, well, who are your clients? She goes, oh, people like you, folks who work online, folks who are accountants. This is people who just don't do that kind of thing, but I help them do that. That's who I work with.
Isn't it amazing? So I'm going to go back one or two pieces when we're talking about this influence in our own community, the people that we are influenced. In the second example that you gave, finding your bookkeeper here in, which I love that she's from Colorado. That's awesome. Hi, Danielle. We should meet sometime just for the heck of it. In the same state and all. The point being though, when we know what we need help with, and we know what's getting in our way, something like books, that seems pretty straightforward to me. What about when we're thinking about marketing? What about when we have, and I'm going to go to the horticulturist example, then the first set of examples you gave us. And that is when we're talking about expertise, we know we have to know what we're looking for. So in the mind of our customer, in the mind of the people we want to attract, we have to know what they are looking for. So we know how to position ourselves and the knowledge that we have as being useful to help and influence them. And I think landscaping, while it's a simple example, it actually is more complex than that because we get in our own way. We get in our own way of getting our knowledge out there. And you've seen it with me. You've even had conversations with me about that, Miss Ivana. And I'm still digesting all of that and practicing the things that we've talked about. And I have to admit that when we're talking about expertise and getting in our own way, what if we don't want to be an influencer, yet we still have a business to run? Our team is the influence. The service that we're providing is the knowledge that we're coming together. Is that possible?
It is possible. And I'm not sure if I'm disagreeing with you on something or not. Maybe it's just semantics, right? But I would say over the years, I've had this epiphany. Okay. And the epiphany is this. When I was in marketing school back in the 80s, we were taught to first identify your audience and then somehow magically morph yourself into something that will get them to choose you.
Right.
And I will tell you something that I've observed.
It doesn't work.
Working with bunches of business owners.
Yeah.
That isn't going to happen.
Right.
A business owner cannot help. A business owner is their company and their team actually reflects who they are.
Yes.
So whoever the business owner is, if you have a business owner that Oh, I have another great example. I worked with a financial company, and their CEO was incredibly detail oriented. And hello, that's a good thing if you're running a financial services company. This is a man who wants everything to 3 decimal places. This is a man who values his time so much that, like, you have to make this appointment. He doesn't give out his phone number, blah, blah, blah. My point in all of this is that his entire company is this way.
Yes.
So a business owner is truly, I don't know what to call it, the foundation. They're a leader. They can't help it. So if you're not a good leader, people are watching you.
Yeah.
People are, and who you are inside of your business is actually the kind of people that you attract. And that is the kind of experience that you give your customers. There is a kitchen remodeling company here that I use for absolutely everything. They're a kitchen remodeler, but they do like everything. That business owner is completely anally retentive. I walked in on this man. He was putting up a new display, and he was moving faucets and measuring by like millimeters.
I know a lot of people like that.
Okay, and I can tell you, when the people came to do work here, that's exactly the same way they did it.
I want to know that person.
They pulled stuff up.
Yep.
And they put it back. And I said, why did you do that? And I happened to be home. And he said, well, because it got wet and it's not supposed to be wet. It needs to dry. And I'm like, well, I happen to have been here, but if I wasn't here, I wouldn't have even known. He goes, oh, you would know. Because like 3 months from now, you would be calling us and we would have to dig it up then. So I might as well do it now. So that's because that quality of who you are as a leader, and that's expertise.
Yes,
it's
it is.
Knowing that team knew exactly that if they did not lift those pavers and dry out that foundation, there was going to be a problem. I can tell you there are cuts that are like that, just so that they would be perfectly fitting in, so that the grout in between the pavers would be a certain way.
Right.
So that team literally mirrors who that owner is, and that's a level of expertise.
So it's the culture of the organization. And that is one of the reasons that a small business with its leader is so important. And in fact, if nothing else, the leader of an organization may not be a public face. Yet what you're telling me is that the people who you choose to hire, the expectations you give of them, the way you want them to show up, the level of quality, coming back to values of why we're doing what we're doing, the reasons we're behind, how we do what we do, regardless of what's standard or normal, is what's going to set us apart.
And it's going to build your influence. And quite frankly, a lot of small business owners say, I don't know how to be an influencer. And I'm like, no, you don't have to be Kim Kardashian.
Right.
Okay. This is not what we're talking about. This is why I'm giving you some very, very specific small business, Main Street business examples, because I want small business owners to know that your point of view, how you believe things should be done, why you do the things you do the way you do them, when you yell at your employees because they didn't do it right, what was going on there? What is it that, what I like to say, and I might have said this to you before, behind every complaint is a commitment.
Yes.
Every time you complain about something, that means you're committed to something that's on the other side of that. So as a small business owner, what you really want to look at to identify what your point of influence is what are those things? What are your passions? What are your peeves? Right? You're passionate about something. Maybe like me, I'm passionate about timeliness. I'm passionate about getting a good value. I can talk all day about that. I've built a brand around my value-seeking need. The fact that I cannot stand to pay money. Now, I will pay money. I will. I'm not cheap. Just looking for value.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And I built a brand around that. And that's where my influence comes from. A specific point of view, a passion for that point of view, and a behavior that is congruent with that point of view, such that you are attracting people onto your team who share those values.
I'm reading a book for a women's leadership roundtable that I have coming up. And in fact, I just finished it this morning. It's called I'd Rather Be in Charge. Now, when you read the title of this book by Charlotte Beers, I'd rather be in charge. That is something that is not only a point of view in a positive, because she knows herself. The outcome of the book is, hey, you know what? We need to embrace the other points, the other side of it. And when we are really passionate about
Right. I can't tell you how many times I've heard folks say, well, I don't have the qualifications to get out there and say certain things or be a certain way. And what I say to people is, it's not about qualifications, it's about point of view.
Yeah.
I don't need to give you all the examples. Back in the day, my example was, there is an audience for every point of view. I'll just say that. I'm not going to get into examples. Think about celebrities, think about politicians, think about people you disagree with. Though even people, I am astonished after I had, wonderful. His name is Sean Ayala. He's a Snapchat guy. And he gave me some Snapchat people to follow. He said, check these people out, see what they're doing. And I did. And I was like, these are people with like hundreds of thousands of they're massive influencers. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, what? I'm confused by that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So my message to folks is, influence isn't just about being a celebrity and having a quantity of followers. Influence is really about knowing and understanding your unique point of view and then sharing that point of view and then being a stand for that point of view, because that's what your business is founded on. And there's a variety, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later. There are different kinds of influencers, but I'll just give you 3 attributes. Imagine like on a music, what is that thing called? Where you adjust the treble and the bass. I don't know. There's a name for that. Equalizer.
Yes. Okay.
Where you can adjust how the sound comes out.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about resonance. To what degree does this influencer resonate with an audience?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say like Oprah has a lot of resonance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Donald Trump has a lot of resonance.
Yeah.
Right? There's resonance.
Mm-hmm.
There's relevance. How relevant is this person's topic? So like if I'm interested in landscaping and this person is a horticulturalist, that's relevant, right?
Yep.
So there's resonance, there's relevance, and of course there's reach.
Yes.
And it's combinations of these 3 things that create different kinds of influencers.
Okay. So we have a question from Kelly. And Kelly wants to know, how can we tell the difference between popularity and influence? Is it the same things?
Wow, what a great question, right? Because I think that speaks to the Snapchat folks or the Instagram folks I was talking about.
Yeah.
Clearly, these people are popular,
mm-hmm.
right? Or maybe who were the guys that were like doing crazy stunts or something on YouTube or whatever, YouTubers, right? They're doing crazy stunts.
Yeah.
That's being popular, right? I think where popularity turns into influence is, to me anyway, right? Remember I said there was like every definition. As many people, that's how many definitions.
We like your point of view. We're sticking to your point of view here. Yeah.
Yeah. The way I look at it, influence by definition means that you influence or impact an action that I'm going to take. So Oprah is both popular and she's an influencer. The reason she's an influencer is if she chooses a book for a book club and suddenly sales skyrocket to 2 million because those people were watching her show.
Yes.
That's being an influencer. Gandhi was an influencer, also kind of popular. But then let's say I used to work with a guy who was in manufacturing, but one of the things that he was passionate about was cycling.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to buy a bicycle,
You're
I'm
going
going to call him.
Yep.
An influencer is someone who lives in the conversation that you're really passionate about. So they know this conversation, they know all the things that can happen, they can give you advice, right? Like a parent is an influencer. We're having that conversation in my house. A parent is an influencer. Why? Because we have been there, done that. My son's going off to college in the next year. So now we're giving him all kinds of, hey, dude, here's what's going to happen when you get there.
Yes.
That's being an influencer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, that's being a nag. We only turn into influencers if he actually listens and follows instructions.
I love that point. And the reason mostly comes down to the fact that just because we have a point of view, just because we say the things that are on our mind, just because people disagree with us, do not make us an influencer. We also must have that piece of people listen, they have a positive response, and they start to vouch for us.
Right. And they are looking to you for advice. You give them advice. They consider it. Now, they might not even take that advice, but they were like, wow, she was right about that. Or that was really helpful.
Yeah.
That was really helpful. So to me, an influencer is really like an advocate or an advisor or, someone who has been there, done that. And not everyone is an influencer. I think it's really defined by the conversation, not just an area of expertise, but a conversation.
Yep. So we've talked about the popularity piece, right? Celebrity on a large scale. We've talked about the concept of influence of how we shape our families by the choices that we make at home, and that influence only happens or happens in spite of, we might have oppositely influenced. There's still influence happening. And what else? What other kinds of influencers are out there?
Oh, great question. Right. So there are, I'm not going to get them all. There's probably like 10 or 12 of these kinds, but I'm going to just go through the ones that are top of mind.
Mm-hmm.
You can be an activist influencer. That means that you may not have a huge following, but your following is very, very narrow, right? You've got resonance and you've got relevance.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who's an activist can have resonance and relevance, but maybe they don't have reach, not so much reach.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you could have someone who is an expert. An expert influencer would be like, they have resonance and they have relevance and they have like some reach, but it's like in an area.
Mm-hmm.
Like I talked about, maybe it's accounting, maybe it's music. Like it's an expert is someone in like a very tight niche. So like if, for example, someone who has a PhD is a super expert, right? Because they know a whole lot about something that's like really narrow.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like an expert, right? There are people who are what I would call like, I don't know if this is a category, but like those are the ones that were top of mind, like expert, activist, celebrity, those kinds of folks, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are folks who are like advisors, right? So their conversation might be a broader conversation.
Right.
Right. But I think if you notice, I've been using this word conversation quite a bit. And I think it's really important to understand, what are your conversations? Remember, I said to you that I work with this guy in a manufacturing organization. So he was like in logistics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is where the guy worked.
Yeah.
I did not ask him very many logistics questions, but if I was interested in cycling, he would be the person I asked.
Now, relationship. We have this concept of relationship and the difference that there's relationship personally and professionally. The more research I've done, the more companies that I work with, the more that I see this happening, not only in my own life, but in the lives of the people around me. There really is no difference. It's, are we showing up? Are we truly being who we are? Are we doing what we said we can do? And are we empathetic to their situation? Not sympathetic, but empathetic to their situation and noticing the undercurrents that may be there. And I think that's a big part of conversation, because we get that undercurrent from the way people portray themselves. So this gentleman is in logistics, yet from a mile away, he's maybe even 10 miles away, that he's a cyclist, and he cares about that a lot. So how he's presenting a whole part of himself in a business space that cycling doesn't always have a place for, unless he was logistics at a cycling manufacturing, which it sounds like that was not the case, Ivana.
No, not at all.
What are your thoughts about that in terms of this concept of relationship and being able to have a point of view and bringing it to work when it's outside of your position or role?
You have no choice, people. You have no choice. I keep, I know I don't mean to talk about kids so much, but it's just been fascinating to me. When we were growing up, if you didn't want someone to know what you did, you just didn't tell them.
Right. That's right.
If I didn't want my entire hometown to know that I had dyed my hair blue, I just didn't go home for 6 weeks.
That's
okay.
All. Yeah.
That solved the problem. That is no longer the case. There is social media. You cannot control what other people are snapping pictures of. You cannot control, you're sharing things with people. This whole idea of privacy, there is no privacy. You use a credit card, you have no privacy. You search the internet, you have no privacy. The whole idea of privacy is over and done with. And that's why one of the other things I always say is that marketing isn't about what you do, it's about who you are. Mm-hmm. Because you have no choice. And the more congruent you are between who you are at work. So even with my little cyclist guy example, let's be clear. He was awesome. He was very good, and he was an expert in that. Believe me, he was. And it was clear that he was like going on a bike ride after work because he had his little shorts on, he had his little shoes on, he was ready to go. He was doing 30 miles, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. So, and he organized the MS 150. And there were things that he was doing even without the world of social media, even without all the pictures, even without anything. He was very congruent. And I also think that who you are personally, and I don't know, I was talking to this Sean Ayala about Snapchat. We were talking about storytelling and how powerful that is. And he says what businesses need to do is bring more of their personal selves to their marketing.
Yes.
Which I fully agree with, because first of all, it will resonate with people. If you're, let's say, into martial arts, let's say you have a landscaping company, but you're into martial arts. You can't tell me that there aren't philosophies and beliefs that you learned in martial arts that you put inside of that business.
Right. You do. There's no way around it.
There's no way around it.
There's no way around it. That's right. What you learn not to do as a parent shows up, so you know what not to do with your subordinates or the people who report to you, or don't do the same thing that you said no to your child for to your boss. I mean, there's a lot of things, keeping this child example going, that work together. I work with young women and young men in junior high and high school, at high school levels, talking about authenticity and leadership. And, that's a really big part. And the fact that we can't hide anymore is really relevant. And you're saying, embrace it. Don't avoid it. Embrace it.
Exactly.
Because then we get to be part of a conversation.
And it's what sets you apart. And it is in the world of influence, regardless, right? Expertise, thought leadership. Mm-hmm. Let's just kind of pull all those together for the time being. In that world, the more able that you are to share yourself and to have that point of view, and the more specific you are, this is the physics of marketing, the more specific you are, the more customers you'll get, the more ideal customers you'll get. The more general you are, then your message doesn't get across to anybody. Right? So Danielle has tons of customers who are people just like me, because when they hear, I love your QuickBooks mess, it's not a problem. I work with this stuff all the time. And I'm like, yeah, but I got multiple payment methods and I have this and I have that. And she's like, that's okay.
That's okay.
I love that.
Yeah.
My accountant, my CPA does not love that.
So you're solving a problem for you and your CPA by working with Danielle and bringing that in. it's interesting. We're talking around this concept of we bring ourselves to work. There is no such thing as privacy. We are leading. The way we lead is going to be reflected in how we do our business. And for those of you just tuning in, we are the voice of Bold Business Radio, and you're listening to Influencers, and Us with our special guest, Ivana Taylor. And we're really talking around this concept of traits of leadership that influencers have. And if I were to be so bold, I might even say we cannot be effective leaders unless we embrace what we stand for. Would you agree with that? Or would you take an issue with that?
I think that is about like gravity. Name me an effective leader who doesn't stand for anything.
Exactly.
I mean, look at, I am like blown away by whether it's like, and I don't mean to talk about these big folks because I like people I could relate to, right? But like people like the Tesla guy or the Google guys or even like Richard Branson, like people that like, I think it was the Tesla guy. They said like, yeah, I'm gonna put a car on the moon.
Yeah.
Or on Mars or like whatever he was talking about. So, like the man is convinced. The man is like, boom. Think about the Wright brothers. Mm-hmm. Until they built that machine, there was no, like the idea of flying through the sky.
I'm going to re-reference this book again because there's this concept of, and this actually might be a good thing for us to think about when our businesses in terms of mission and our relationships and the people that we bring in. We've got the cycles that affect your relationships. So I'm in this I'd rather be in charge book. There are doers. They engage by organizing, executing, being efficient, and mastering the work. There are, what is the next one? Managers who their job is to make the work environment positive and be a motivational space so people enjoy coming to work. And then we've got this concept for leaders. They are going toward the future. They are saying, this is what is. And we have so many people running small businesses. You and I both work with small business owners that they're like, but I don't want to do that. And that's okay. We can build a business around being a doer. We can build a business around being a manager. However, what's really going to set us apart and really make us different are going to be those of us who can say, we're going to do it in a new way. We're going to totally think about this. Oh, it doesn't have to be this way anymore. There's something that's broken and we can fix it. And choosing it and finding it is what comes up listening to you, Ivana.
I mean, you could be someone with this great idea and that you founded your business and maybe your skill is the doing, right?
Yeah.
And you're a great doer, but now you've kind of taken it and you've seen this in so many businesses where a business gets really big and they kind of kick the founder out. They did it to Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
It's been done.
They've done it to people in my family. I have family members who started businesses, taken them public, and they were pushed out. Totally, yes. Mm-hmm.
Right? Because it's like you've taken it to a certain point, and now, and when you really think about it, isn't that? I took a communications class that talked about like you take something and you build it bigger and you give it away. Your job is to hand it over. Give
it away. So when you have an exit plan, you grow your business, you decide to sell it, and you're the CEO. Who's the first person to go after the sale of a company? The CEO. Somebody new is in town. Somebody new has a new vision. And it is expected when you make that sale that you're selling it. Still, you're letting go of your vision, knowing that somebody's taking what you've done and doing something new with it.
Correct. Which is why folks could be like serial entrepreneurs and they, this is something that they like to do. And I think to your point is you need to know what your skill set is and what you stand for. Yeah. I love the things that you talked about, doers, managers, and leaders. I always look at even inside of every realm, inside of the world of marketing, if you want to hire a marketing person, you need to know, do I need someone to build a system? Because that's a very specific skill set.
Yes.
Versus I have a great system, but I need someone to run it and maximize it and optimize it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a completely different skill set.
Mm-hmm.
So, and hello, you could be an influencer in that area. I keep wanting to bring that back. I feel so passionately about it because I'm in this conversation where it's easy to get caught up with influence being a celebrity or some big thing, something that you can never be, right? Like I was like, how could I be an influencer? I don't get 1 million hits to my website. I don't have thousands of people on my email list. I don't like what, right? And what it is understanding exactly what your point of view is, what you stand for, what conversations that you can understand, and embracing it. Because I guarantee you, people will choose you because of that.
Interesting. And the way I hear other people talk about it, and I have an issue with this, and what you're describing actually provides a solution to my issue with this. People say to me, or I go to seminars and conferences and somebody starts talking about influence and how do you become an influencer? And they start using this word like be your own celebrity. And they start talking about things like small but mighty, micro influencers. And you know what? I don't like any of those words. I don't like any of those words. And what I hear you saying, Ivana, is that we have this concept of just by being us, we don't have to try. We don't have to have a strategy. We don't have to build something. We just have to know who we are. And I like that so much more. It makes it much more attainable. It makes it, the pressure is off. I don't want to be a celebrity like some of these people are celebrities. And because if I try, I'm probably going to become a celebrity for the whole other thing than anything I ever thought of in the first place because of faux pas, misunderstandings, whatever the case may be. So why not just be ourselves?
Be yourself. And that's to say, here's something else. You can also influencer marketing and using an influencer for your marketing or running an influencer marketing campaign. Again, not just for big brands and not just for spokespeople and LeBron James and Nike. You can find, if you don't want to be an influencer, maybe what you want to do is partner with an influencer. So you go to your industry. If you were to go to your industry conference, if you get those industry papers, like every industry has them, the rubber industry has them, the car industry has them, the beauty industry has them. Well, there are articles in there written by people.
Yes.
Who are experts in that conversation. Maybe they're speakers at a conference. Maybe, they write these articles. Maybe they're professors. Maybe they're engineers. You would be amazed at the wealth of knowledge that you can have by partnering with these people. That's your own influencer marketing campaign. You can partner with that person. Let me tell you what gets me going. What gets me going is when people get up on stage and then they say, you should not have to pay for working with an influencer. Well,
what?
I kid you not.
And the value, what?
Well, because I think people think, and there are people out there preaching, I've heard some of them preaching this. Well, it's one thing if you're Lego and you have 400 million kids buying Lego things that turn into adults who are Lego fans. That's, again, a certain type. If you're Lego and you have something or Disney.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have people who are so engaged into your business and your product and what you stand for that they choose to share these things and do these things and be advocates for those brands. Yippee. Those are consumers who have given this is a hobby or this is something they love and enjoy.
Yep.
That's great. But hello, if you're Joe's Plumbing, or Joe's Landscaping, right? Or you're a tech company, or you're an accounting firm, or a law firm. Seriously, how many people do we know that go, oh, I'm just going to write about this law firm all day long, or this dentist, or this chiropractor? That is not going to happen.
Truth.
Because if you partner with an influencer and you want them to create content, maybe you want them to come and speak. Maybe you want them to write something for your blog or on your customer's behalf. Maybe you want them to be a guest at a trade show.
Yes.
To be standing in your booth or something and answer people's questions. That is content creation. People prepare for that. That is their job as an expert in that field. And so, if you've got some type of thing where people just love your cupcakes and they want to eat your cupcakes all day long, that's different.
So you're talking about the raving fans, and you're talking about actually encouraging people to, and saying, hey, I have this thing I want you to do. What could we find that's also in it for you? And
Correct.
sometimes that's money, because what do we want that person for? Like LeBron James, you mentioned, or like Oprah, or like any famous voice that you hear on TV being part of TV commercials, voiceovers, things like that. They are known. They are bringing reach that we don't have. And there is a value exchange that must occur.
And that value is not like, we're going to put a link to your website. That is not value.
No.
There is not very much. If you're asking someone to create content for you, then you need to pay them. Absolutely. And all I'm saying to small business owners is you can leverage influencers. That's what I'm trying. My goal is to have people understand that you are probably an influencer in some conversation. I think it's important for you to know what that is. Like I'm an influencer in the cheap marketing conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
People call me and they're like, what email do you use? What's that? Where did you get that thing? How do you do that? Blah, blah, blah. Right. Yep. You and I have had that conversation. How are you using this tool? How much are you paying? What are you getting?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm. So you're an influencer in a conversation. Figure that out, what that is. Right. And then make sure that you are working with your people to share, to either share that knowledge or gain knowledge from them. Work together. Mm-hmm. You're an influencer in a particular conversation. I'm an influencer in another conversation. We can share and learn from each other.
We can. And what that does is, in this exchange, in this building of ideas, in this where there is value exchanged, everybody gets uplifted. And that is a piece that we forget when we go from thinking about value and we flip to that flip side of cheap. Or we think about curiosity so much that we forget to actually take action, because all we do is ask the questions all day long. Strategy. This is a strategy for a business owner like you listening, for a senior manager like you listening, to go back to your business and say, okay, we think we have influencer marketing. Do we really? Are we realistic about what we want from this? Where is the creation happening? What is the value for that creation? And I'm going to repeat what you said, Ivana, about the 3 attributes of an influencer. Who within our organization and who do we want to partner with that resonates, that has relevance and has the reach that maybe we do not, to create what we want within our organization? Now, on the flip side, let's talk about the influencers, the people who already have those 3 attributes. David has asked us from the audience, is there a process that we can follow to become an influencer in a certain business area? And what's the investment in that other than time? And maybe we should talk about time too, because people are like, but I've been doing this for 3 years. And because it is, right? It takes time. It
is time. It is the biggest investment. I just had this conversation with somebody who goes, I want to be like who you are. And I said, you need to understand that I'm an influencer, and I'm not like a super influencer. Like celebrities have A-list, B-list, C-list, D-list. I'm like somewhere. And it's an investment of time mostly. So first you got to know what your point of view is. You've got to find that. I keep saying that, but you've got to figure that out. Mm-hmm. What is your point of view? What is your stand? What conversation are you expert in? Once you figure that, but those are key, because your next step is going to involve creating content. Like this is content, what we're doing, this is conversational content, right? Mm-hmm. The next, maybe you like to write. If you like to write, then write. If you like to do video, do video. If you like to interview folks, interview folks. But that is all content. And you need to start using your point of view. And this is truly the step. Number 1, have like a point of view. Number 2, take a stand on your point of view, right? So mine is marketing is about being and not doing. Then that's like a philosophy of life. It's a belief. The next step of that is, wait a minute, if it's about being and not doing, why do you have to do everything? You should do less if you want more. You see how those 2 work together?
Yes.
So now, once you've got that down, maybe when you think thoughts around those two things, you write those down. Write those down. Those are like, what are like the 10 points of whatever, 10 points or 10 steps or 10 whatever, I call that the mother sauce. 10 talking points that you always make. What did I already say? Do less marketing, make more money. Marketing is about being and not doing. You can't sell anything to everybody. Like, you're going to have these little phrases that you find yourself using all the time. Write those down and start elaborating on those things and see how those phrases ultimately apply to your work. Right? And I'm sure that these 3 things that I have said, you could probably apply in your area with a few little tweaks.
Absolutely.
Right?
So I'm curious enough to do so. And so I'd like to challenge the audience to take that and be curious enough to make those tweaks as well.
Yep. And it is time. And then the other thing is and you've got to be like any, marketers and influencers, are like the actors of the business world. That means you have to put yourself out there and say, hey, can I write a blog post for you? Hey, can I do this? And you've got to be ready. It's a farming game, Jessica. It is a farming game. You take seeds, you plant them, and you water them, and you visit them, and you pray that the weather's okay, but you are consistently investing a behavior and your time in the hopes of watching a seed grow.
And when it does, then sometimes there's a drought. And when it does, then sometimes the weather may come along. And I call that the ebb and the flow. There's this ebb and this flow. And we're talking about influence today, and it applies here. So some periods of time, we're the go-to person. And other periods of time, something has happened by our own action or by something outside of what we can control, and we're not asked as much. And then it'll come back. So what do you suggest for people to get through those lulls? Because it's not a constant progression, nor is it one of those exponential growth curves, what you're talking about.
Can I just say something?
Please.
I have to say something because sometimes I feel like being an influencer is not a job description.
Right.
Okay. I happen to run influencer marketing campaigns for brands. And so I put the word influencer, small business influencer, in my descriptions because that's what people are searching for. It's a keyword phrase that I use, but it is not a job description. Maybe there are people like Seth Godin, but even Seth Godin wasn't an influencer. He was a marketing guy.
Yep.
So in the ebb and flow in terms of whether people are asking you to write or to interview you or like this influencer activity is not a job.
So I would say it's more like credibility because it is our own, it's a soft skill that we have developed.
It's sort of like on your income statement or whatever, wherever goodwill lives.
Yeah.
A brand has goodwill. It has value. And that doesn't exist in its assets. It doesn't exist in any of that. When people started saying to me, how do you make money on social media? And I said, I don't make money on social media. I can charge more.
Yeah.
Because of my presence. But hello, I am willing to do things that brands don't have time to do or the expertise to do or the whatever. It is my job to be in conversation with small business owners. I have a consulting business. That's how I make money. I'm not an influencer. I am an online publisher and I have a consulting business.
Being an influencer does not preclude us from doing the work. Some people want to do this because they just want to tell people what to do and they don't want to actually do any work to prove that they can get there and they don't want to stand by their results. And that is a difference, I think, between actually you and me. It's one reason I think we get along is that we're both willing to do the work that it takes and we're both willing to say, well, that's actually not work I'm willing to do. Let me introduce you to somebody because it's outside of my reach, my relevance, and what I resonate with personally, which means this is going to be a problem if I take it on for you because we will no longer resonate.
Correct. That's absolutely Correct. And, and to say that, you've got to like think out of the box about these things. There are folks who are doers. You've got we even talk about Gary Vaynerchuk, for example,
Yes.
who is an influencer, but he built that business. Now he's in a media business, but he's had actions. He knows how to do things. So that's one form of influence, but there's another form of influence. Let's say Oprah would be one of these people, a curator.
Yes.
There's a person, there are influencers who curate content, who curate people, who do the work that it takes too much time to do, to find things and then present those things to you. I am more of a curation type of influencer. Because for me to get up there and say that I have built so many $1 million businesses is a big fat lie. I've not done that. I am a curator. I simplify your life. That's what I do. I'm like the Real Simple magazine.
That's awesome. I would say I'm a curator. I have done both though. I have tanked businesses and I have grown businesses immensely, a lot in each direction, which is one of the reasons I love business, because there's so much to learn and not everybody wants to tank those businesses. And I say tank, they failed. It is what it is. It's from learning those failures though, that we figure out what works. It also figures out how much is the individual, how much is the skills of those individual, and how much that individual is willing to step up and try again, which by the way, I think comes with people who seek to be influencers tend, I would say, to never feel like they get there because the grass is always greener. There's always going to be somebody bigger. Whereas what I hear you saying is if we just join a conversation, if we just do what we do naturally, find the people that we would already want to talk to, learn the things that we want to learn, it'll come.
Because whatever it is that you feel passionately about, that you are strong in, that you're just doing naturally, and you share that knowledge, and that does come through content.
Yes.
Yeah, you cannot, you can't get away from the fact that as a small business owner, yes, being an expert in your area will make you more money, but it does take an investment, and that investment takes time. Either you're going to invest that time to create that content, or you're going to have to build a team to help you create that content in your voice. Time, money, the perpetual balance.
Now, we've talked about influence changing. We've talked about the fact that when we're seeking it, it may elude us, just like everything. If we're looking for money, we're probably not going to make money. If we're looking for the keys, we're probably not going to find the keys. If we think we're going to be on time to this great big meeting and we're running late, we're probably going to get a flat tire, whatever the case may be. And there's a law for that. I can't remember whose law that is. People want to measure it, though. And if we leave that out of the conversation, we're going to leave our audience hanging, the people who are listening into us today. And there are direct measures of influence. There are also indirect measures of influence. So and I'm going to take this from the perspective of, as a business owner, deciding what the value is, what investment in this content creation or co-content creation that I want with an influencer to get me maybe to a new market, to get me to more of my audience that I already serve, whatever the reason, whatever the purpose, what would I want to consider measuring, and how would I have that conversation with this person for it to be real and be able to have the beneficial side, being open to hearing what's beneficial to them, being honest with what we actually really want.
Well, any small business owner only wants one thing, maybe two things: more customers so they can make more money. Those are the things we want. We're all in agreement on that. But here's the deal. And boy, I love that you brought up this idea of moving into new markets, because that is a great opportunity to work with an influencer, right? But no matter what, chances are maybe your business is different, but I've worked with bunches of them, and almost all of them really struggle in terms of, especially if you're going into a new market, building awareness. So an influencer, even though we spent time talking about how influencers impact behavior, you're not going to be able, you have to do this long term. And really the first thing that has to happen is people have to get used to the fact that, oh, this person is working with this company and this person likes this company. And like, that's the first connection that your audience has to make. And that will take about a year. of constant seeing that, making that connection that, oh, I like LeBron James and LeBron James likes this pizza shop. Okay. Like that's how long it'll take. Right.
Yep.
And then even after that, there has to be the step into more and more engagement. So the first thing you want to measure is you want to pick an influencer who truly values your product and your service. Maybe they're an existing customer, maybe they're like something like that. And there's a mesh that they use this thing, they've used it before, they like it, they're a fan, right? Now, they're going to be able to educate more people on why your product or service is so awesome. So there's like this awareness building, then there's this education building. Yeah, you might get sales, but don't expect sales right away. I told you this was a farming game, right? And then from that point on, you want to measure engagement and the quality of the engagement, the customers that you have. Are you getting the right kind of customers? What about the value of those customers? I know brands who want to say, oh, I do small kitchen remodels. My average sale is $20,000, but I want to do fancy kitchen remodels and I want my average sale to be $50,000. Well, this is the kind of thing that you're going to measure, right? And the content that influencer puts out, or, you know, the people that you're working with, you'll be able to see that.
Yes.
But it will be somewhat invisible for a while.
And that's when it's almost the ebb and the flow. In the world of instant gratification, this takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of confidence, because it's easy to second guess. It's easy to go, man, I'm throwing away this money. And so if somebody's going to say to you, this is a pet peeve of mine. When somebody says to you, I can get you awareness or into a new market and sales in 3 months, I'm like, you know what? That's great that they've had success. I would be curious what they stepped in to work with versus building from scratch. So it depends on where you are on the map. Yeah, if you're a good closer, somebody else needed to come in and build that path so you could come in and close. If you're a builder, and it's hard, because this is where we're really talking about glue. We're talking about a lot of things that are between, that hold stuff together, that is not necessarily sexy, yet set the stage for that instant gratification from the consumer once they've made the connection.
I'm going to say something that's going to light you up. It is all about your process.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many small businesses I talk to that are so desperate for customer and sales. And I see this all the time. In fact, I have a rule about it, and I'm going to share it with you people. Okay. Because they're like, we want sales and marketing because we need new customers. But maybe you're not getting paid. Maybe you're not getting enough money. Maybe you're living paycheck to paycheck. You're trying to make payroll. People, that is an operational issue.
Yes.
You must fix your operations. Do not even think. And I bet your website sucks. I bet you haven't had, maybe your neighbor did it. I don't know. Every small business owner's website I have seen needs some help, and they're not getting the customers. They're not getting all this. And I'm going to tell you people from my own experience, this is a mind game. The first thing you want to do, fix your operations, pare down, do whatever you need to do to get profitable first. Get profit first. Read Mike Michalowicz's book, Get Profit First. Now you can grow. Once you've decided to grow, while you're getting that profit, people, would you please stash some marketing money on the side? And I recommend approximately $15,000. Now, I don't know, you're going to say, why $15,000? Well, you're going to need to update your website. You're going to need to do some copywriting. You're going to need someone to manage your social media. You're going to need blah, 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 blah. Website, $5,000. I had a budget of $2,500. It was $5,000 anyway. It doesn't even look any different because all the work was on the back end. Yeah. I mean, no matter how you slice it, it's going to be $5,000. You get a cheap website, you're going to pay for it later, and it's going to be $5,000. So put that money aside, people, because when you have $15,000 there, you're going to, and your operations is profitable, and you have this nice little kitty in the back, you are going to be up and running in no time. And that gives you time, and fixing your operation, your process is going to get you what you stand for, what you're good at, get your employees on. Do all that first. See, I'm the only marketing person that says, don't do marketing yet.
And it's bold. I'm going to just say right here, it's time to say, why is it bold? Why is it bold to think about influence and being an influencer and us and our relationships? Why is that bold? You've already started, so keep going.
Are you asking me to answer that question?
I am.
Influence is like the sex talk. Either you control the message or somebody else will control it for you. So do it. Find your conversation, find your point of view, fix your operation so that you will have the money and the time and the headspace, because you cannot think about being an influencer if you ain't getting paid and you can't pay your employees. This is not for you if your operations is not humming and it's not profitable. Stop kidding yourself.
And there you have it. This is Influence, Influencers, and Us. You can go to voiceofboldbusiness.com/P127. That's voiceofboldbusiness.com/P for program 127 and search online or on the website for Influence, Influencers, and Us to find the program notes, to get the replays of this, to have all of the notes that Ivana has dropped. I'm going to pull some of her tweet chats and the videos from that as well for us to have handy here. It's all about influence. It's how we look at it. It's how we look at ourselves. It requires grit, consistency through the hard times and the easy times. And it is worth it when we're doing something and joining conversations that we like already, that get us excited already. And people will get to know us and they can make those introductions to us. And we become fans of the products that we use, and other people will become fans of our product because they use it. You heard it here first with Ivana Taylor. Make sure to email radio@Red and share your comments, ideas, and feedback about the Voice of Bold Business Radio. You can listen in where podcasts are sold. Share your story and experience. Oh, effective leaders out there and aspiring effective leaders and continuously improving curious leaders that want to do more with less. Got to work that in for you, Miss Ivana. You know what it means to be a leader today because you're doing it. You're living it. Together, when we share that story, we are shaping what it means to lead. We want to know from you, what are you doing and how do you influence? Find influencers and be part of the conversation.
Subscribe at thevoiceofboldbusiness.com and get more information, program notes, and past episodes. Bold leaders approach each situation and focus on action to achieve a higher level of leadership. Jessica Dewell, your business advocate, is the host of the Voice of Bold Business Radio. Thank you for joining us.